What would you do if you had to choose between the opportunity of a lifetime and helping a stranger in need? Most of us would rush toward our dreams, afraid to lose them. But for Jacob Wells, a single father with everything on the line, that choice came on a stormy morning, and it changed his life forever. What happened next will leave you questioning what true success really means. The rain was merciless that morning, a curtain of water pouring down over the city streets, blurring headlights and soaking everything in its path. People hurried along the sidewalks with umbrellas tilted low, their faces hidden. Their pace quickened as they tried to escape the storm. But Jacob Wells wasn't moving fast. He was kneeling in the middle of the street, rain dripping down his hair and plastering his shirt against his back, his focus entirely on the woman before him. She was breathtaking, though not in the way of glamour magazines or flashing billboards. Her orange gown, once elegant and striking, was now clinging to her like a second skin, torn at the hem, streaked with dirt and mud. The stiletto heel she clutched was snapped clean off, and her long hair clung to her cheeks in wet strands. For all her beauty, her current state made her look human, vulnerable, a sharp contrast to the powerful image she must have projected minutes before when she was driving her red convertible through the city. "You're bleeding," Jacob said, his voice steady despite the chaos around them. His eyes locked onto the cut on her shin, where blood mixed with rain and tiny shards of glass glistened under the streetlights. He reached toward her instinctively, his protective nature stronger than his hesitation. The woman shifted uncomfortably, brushing off his concern as if it were beneath her. "It's fine," she muttered, though her voice cracked slightly. She tried to stand tall, to maintain dignity, but the tremor in her leg betrayed her. The truth was undeniable. She was hurt, stranded, and very much alone. The hazard lights of her stalled convertible flashed insistently just a few feet away, blinking in defiance against the storm, a silent signal of distress that no one else seemed to notice. All around them, people kept walking. Some glanced for a second before turning away. Others didn't even bother to look. The city, in its cold rush, moved on without caring. But Jacob stayed. He didn't see a wealthy woman in an expensive gown. He saw a person in pain, and he couldn't walk away. He steadied her with one hand, his touch firm yet careful, and bent to look closer at her injury. "There's glass in it," he murmured, his brows furrowing. "You need to sit down before it gets worse." Her eyes flicked over him quickly. She noticed the worn edges of his shoes, the cheap watch that ticked faintly on his wrist, and the resume sticking out of the backpack slung across his shoulder. He was clearly on his way to something important, yet here he was, kneeling in the rain. "You're in a hurry," she observed, her tone clipped but curious. He nodded, brushing water from his forehead. "Interview." "Then go," she said firmly, even though she could barely stand on her own. "Don't waste your chance because of me." But Jacob didn't move. He wasn't wired that way. His eyes softened, but his voice remained steady. "You're hurt. Come on, there's a cafe across the street. We'll dry off, clean the cut." The woman hesitated, her pride battling with her pain. Finally, she gave in, accepting the arm he offered. She leaned into him slightly as she limped across the street, her weight pressing into him more than she wanted to admit. Inside the cafe, the warmth was immediate, wrapping around them like a blanket. The chatter of customers and the rich aroma of coffee filled the space. making the storm outside feel distant. Jacob guided her to a corner table, then went to the counter and quietly asked the barista for a first aid kit. He returned with napkins, bandages, and a cup of warm water, his movements calm and purposeful. The woman watched him intently, almost baffled. She was used to people rushing to please her for status, for gain, or for attention, yet this man, soaked to the bone, was taking his time to carefully tend to her wound without asking for anything in return. "You're missing something important right now," she finally said, studying his face. "I can tell." He gave a faint smile, though the weariness in his eyes was undeniable. "Yeah, the interview of a lifetime, director role at Stratus Corporation. I've been preparing for months." Her brows lifted in surprise. "And you just skipped it? To help me?" Jacob dabbed gently at the wound, cleaning away the dirt and blood with patience. He shrugged lightly. "You looked like you needed someone. My daughter's 6. I always tell her to do the right thing, even when it's not convenient. Can't really teach her that if I don't live it myself." For the first time, the woman's expression softened. Her eyes searched his face, and her voice grew quieter. "You're a single dad." He nodded, his gaze momentarily distant. "Been raising her alone since she was 2. She's the reason I even applied for this job. I want to give her a better life than the one I've been scraping together. She deserves it." There was a long silence between them. The cafe seemed to fade into the background. The chatter, the clinking cups, the storm against the windows, none of it mattered in that moment. "Most people wouldn't have stopped," she said finally, almost to herself. "Most people didn't," Jacob replied with a small smile. "But that doesn't mean I shouldn't." She looked down at her leg, now neatly bandaged, then back up at him. Her lips parted as though she wanted to say something more, but all that came out was a quiet, "Thank you." When the storm finally slowed, Jacob helped her outside. The air was cleaner, the sky lighter, but the street still glistened with puddles. He hailed her a cab and offered her his umbrella, refusing to let her walk away unprotected. As she stepped inside, she paused at the door. "What's your name?" she asked. "Jacob Wells." She held his gaze for a moment, her eyes shining with an unreadable emotion. "I won't forget that," she said softly, before the cab pulled away, carrying her into the distance. Jacob stood there, drenched once more, watching the tail lights disappear into traffic. The weight of what he had lost pressed on him. The interview, the opportunity he had worked so hard for. It was gone, and there was no getting it back. Yet, strangely, his heart was calm. He felt no regret. Somehow, he knew he had chosen the right path. 3 days later, as Jacob sat at the small kitchen table of his modest apartment, his phone buzzed with an unknown number. He hesitated before answering. "Mr. Wells," a woman's voice said smoothly, "this is Victoria Langford, CEO of Stratus Corp." Jacob's chest tightened instantly. He swallowed hard, struggling for words. "Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry about missing the interview. I was helping someone and—" "That someone was me," she interrupted. Silence stretched between them. "I didn't tell you who I was that day," she continued, her tone softening. "But I knew who you were the moment you helped me. You didn't hesitate. You didn't ask for anything. You sacrificed something important for someone you didn't know. That told me everything I needed to know about your character." Jacob's breath caught in his throat. His hands trembled as he gripped the phone tighter. I don't know what to say." Say yes, she replied simply. The position is yours, if you'll still take it. No interview? You've already passed it. Tears stung Jacob's eyes as he whispered, "Thank you." That evening, when he picked up his daughter from school, she came running into his arms, her small backpack bouncing as she shouted, "Daddy!" He held her close, overwhelmed with emotion. "Did you get the job, Daddy?" she asked eagerly, her wide eyes shining with hope. Jacob's smile trembled, but it was brighter than it had been in years. "Yes, sweetheart." I did. Her face lit up even more. "Did they like your suit?" she asked with childlike innocence. Jacob chuckled softly, kissing the top of her head. "I think they liked my choices more." Some moments in life test your character. Others reveal it. And sometimes, when you think you've lost everything, you've already won more than you ever imagined.